Hello once again, everybody, and welcome to Broadway Comedy Club Radio. I'm your host, Clayton Fletcher, here in New York City, and joined, as always, from a faraway land known as Florida, USA, is the owner and booker of Broadway Comedy Club, and my dear friend, my co-host, Al Martin. Al, how are you?
Great, Clayton. How are you? Super secret location in Florida.
Yeah, undisclosed location. And
Undisclosed.
I want to start off right away today by bringing on our special guest. We've been very fortunate with our relaunch of our podcast, which is also available on YouTube if you're just listening to this and you want to see our beautiful faces. And we have an extra beautiful face for you today. She is one of the funniest people I have ever met. She's the host of Ask Me Another trivia show on NPR, and she's got a number of other exciting projects in the works right now. She's going to tell us all about it. Stand-up comedian, mother, and all-around great gal, Ophira Eisenberg.
Yay! That's so nice. Thank you. I feel like, 5 years ago, people would have introduced me as like, if they wanted the second thing, like stand-up comedian, and then they would be like, girl about town or something like that when I was just like dating and what have you.
Girl
About town. I like it.
Girl about town.
Ophira's been working my clubs for a while, and sometimes you don't always get to interact with the comedians as much as I'd like to, but just looking over her bio, it's an incredibly diverse work that she's done. I mean, she went from nice Jewish girls gone bad, screw everyone, sleeping my way to monogamy, to NPR.
That's right.
And stuff like that. So, how do you do that? That's great.
Thank you. I mean, and you know what? Thank you, because I feel like it's true. I am someone who's done like lots of different things. I admire people so much who just focus on one thing, and that is what they do, and they just do that all the way through. But that has just never been me. I've always been like, oh, I want to try writing this. I want to try doing that. And it's nice to hear about it back at you like it's a positive, because some people could look at it and just sort of be like, well, so what is it that you do? What are you actually skilled at?
Are you versatile, or do you have ADD? Like, which
right,
is
exactly. I think versatility is a great thing, but sometimes you feel like there is like this thing about like, don't do too many things, just pick the one. So yes, stand up is really my foray into any kind of entertainment performing, and my first love and my continuous love. And sometimes I'm like, wow. It is amazing, especially in these times. If you still want to do stand-up in this format, you must really love it.
Yeah, because people are doing stand-up on the back of pickup trucks and bubbles and Zoom shows. It's a whole new world out there.
Yeah, any park, like any tree is now like, well, that's a comedy club.
Yeah, a rooftop, a drive-in movie theater. Yeah, actually, Ophira and I were on a Zoom show together recently, and I think we can all agree it's horrible.
It's not ideal.
It's not ideal. It's less than ideal.
It's less than ideal. But I still think there are it's not supposed to be the same thing, right? That's what I think is the brain. The brain has to get over that, is that this is not supposed to be the same thing. You're not supposed to get out of it the same thing as you would do a regular performance. And thinking that you can recreate that is just, no. Don't. Yeah. Why? That's exercise in insanity. Yeah. Outdoor shows, are outdoor shows going to be as good as indoor shows? No. Why? Doesn't matter what you do. Until you build a room around that outdoor, it's still going to be what it is.
You build a room around the outdoor, and it's now indoors. So.
Exactly. So it's like, I would joke, because I've done some terrace sets and some rooftops and some outdoors, and I would joke that I was like, you got to understand, all of these gigs are the things, if you are any comic of worth, you have refused to do for years, saying, are you kidding me? Do you know how much time and effort I put into my career? Do you know how much I respect my art? This is insulting. This ask is insulting. And right now it's more like, sounds good to me.
I'm
Oh,
so happy.
Two people? I'm in.
So
Well,
happy
you
to
know,
go on
it's
the
interesting.
freezing rooftop for 5 minutes for 3 people. Yeah.
Yeah, let's see how it goes.
You know,
Yeah.
I don't know if you're aware of it, Ophira, but some of the things you're actually doing are some of the things that are still permitted to do indoors. I mean, it might be ending now with the indoor ban, but while restaurants were open, like I noticed you do a trivia puzzle show.
Yeah.
I mean, these are things that can be done. You know, they're not stand-up comedy. Stand-up comedy is expressly prohibited right now in New York. I never thought I'd say that, but
I know, right?
Indoor comedy is expressly prohibited. But the trivia show that you do is definitely something that can be done indoors once restaurants reopen, I guess.
Yeah, although our trivia show is basically a comedy show, and when we did it before this, it was at the Bell House, so it was like at a live performance space that was known for, music and comedy. And we did it like it's really a variety show where we're playing games with people. So there was no way to do that anymore. Live audience, all of that, gone.
How
Can
about
you
the
play
storytelling?
storytelling, live, that's live performance, gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're like me, you're unemployed right now.
Well, so for the trivia show, we did immediately change it to kind of, a format like this. So, but a lot of things had to change. And, to the credit, so, with this comedy trivia variety show kind of aspect on NPR, and as we developed it and we're doing it, there were still things that we were trying to work on. We're like, this final round never really feels like it gels with the rest of the show. And we talk to contestants like this, but then we have a celebrity, we talk to this. How do we make this all cohesive? Well, guess what? Everything got taken away. And all with that, a lot of the formatting we had before, because we're now doing it in a Zoom format, had to also leave. So then it became about like, okay, we're just going to get some, we're going to have some actors, celebrities, musicians, people that are out there trying to promote stuff. They are going to be our contestants. We're not going to do a final round because, as I joked, do you really want to do a final round when you're living in the final round?
Final round, yeah.
Like, do we need more? Do we need more?
Yeah.
And in some ways, it made it a better show.
So we're talking about NPR's Ask Me Another, which is the trivia comedy variety show, which used to be a live format with a live audience, and now we're talking about how you switched it to Zoom. But I want to go back because I know you've always been the host of this program, but it sounds like you may have been involved in the actual creative process. Was this your idea all along?
No, not at all. Not at all. Actually, I auditioned for it, which NPR in public radio in general is not really known for doing a lot of auditioning. I think this is one of the few things that they decided to audition for because they weren't looking for a journalist, so that's most of their hosts have journalism backgrounds. That's what they are there. So this was a very different thing. Now it's changed. We've been doing this show for 8 years. So now there's lots more entertainment products. But we were, one of the few that NPR was producing, not just buying from someone else. And just as I love telling this because I think it's just a good showbiz reminder to anybody out there who's a comic about be nice to everyone at the club or the venue you're at. Be nice to the people working the door, the security, the sound people, the waiters, the people bringing you drinks, every last person, because you don't know who's giving you your next job. And in the case of this audition, it was an audio engineer from a different show that liked me, and we were friendly, and he liked my stuff. And he ended up being in a conversation with NPR where they were looking for someone, and he suggested me. And that it is because of that guy, Paul Ruest, that I even got in that door. Otherwise, there was no reason. So
That's that's an incredible story and so spot on, because I tell young comedians this all the time. You know, don't get cocky when you walk in a room because someone's serving a drink. You never know when these people go on to bigger and better things. You know, there's an old saying in the bar business that more bars are owned by former bartenders who ripped off the bar for like 20 years. And then when the bar owner died, they bought the bar off the widow with the money they stole. So now they own the place. So.
Oh my God.
So yes, be nice to everybody.
Well, and I do think, and Clayton, I think you could speak to this too. So how many jobs have you received from other comics? Would you say most of them?
Yeah.
And
almost all of them, yeah.
Yeah, and if the bartender or the waitstaff like you, have you ever received jobs from those people?
For sure. Yeah.
I have too.
Happens. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, is it like the amount of times it's those people and not like the classic idea of like an agent or a this or a that? Like, it's usually the people that you know. And all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, my friend is doing this thing and we need yeah. And they know you're already...
I've had waitresses many times come over to me, or waiters say, Al, you got to see this comic in the room. I mean, they're incredible. They're destroying, you know, and that happened to me once many years ago with Laurie Kilmartin, you know, when she first came to New York. Someone said to me, you got to go catch this comedian in the small room we used to have at New York Comedy Club on 24th Street. And I walked in there, and this unknown to me was like crushing the room, you know?
Yeah.
And
so
yes,
sharp.
That's a great point you make. And that should be an Ophira golden rule of comedy. When you write your book, Ophira's golden rule of comedy. Be nice.
Be nice to these people. They are going to help you. Yeah, because nobody sees you more than the staff. And they have seen everybody.
Club owners should take that advice too, because there were many young comedians starting out that were very annoying to me, you know, the annoying things young comedians can do, you know, and I, you know, was in a bad mood and I blew them off and they went on to become Jim Gaffigan or something, you know, so it happens.
Yeah, well, not, you know, that's the other thing I can, you know, even from my independent shows booking, you really do get a sense. Every comic too also should book a show, should go and find a bar or a performance space when we're back to that and book a show, just to feel what it's like to have people think that you owe them to help them without anything.
It's
you know, just to feel
true.
that, because then all of a sudden you're like, wow, this is nothing. Sometimes it's nothing to do with anything. It's just like, oh my goodness, why are you bothering me? You know, I wanted to do a show called How Do You Get Booked? You're My Friend, just so it was so clear how the lineups were made.
Yeah, at least you would be, you know, keeping it real there, very honest. You want to spot on the show, you have to be my friend.
You have to be my friend.
If I don't know you, leave me alone.
You never know when that friend you're doing open mics with, you know, winds up, you know, getting seen at a club and gets a sitcom, and they need, what, 4 or 5 writers?
That's right.
A lot of times they get, look at King of Queens as an example. You know, that show is just loaded with people that, you know, Kevin James just happened to like from the Long Island comedy circuit that he started out in. So, you know, it doesn't, you know, one of the things, you know, when comics say to me, oh, why do I have to go to open mics? They suck, you know. It's because you meet people and you should socialize, because then maybe you find out where the better mics might be. Or you might eventually take that friendship you develop at an open mic and take it to another phase of your career on the road.
Well, good news, Al. No one's ever going to say that again, because you're going to be like, well, you could do a Zoom show, and they'll be like, I don't care. Any live open mic sounds fantastic. Yeah, can everyone be super angry during my set? Because that would be fine, because they'll be there in person, right? I'll be outside in person, but indoors. Oh, okay.
Yeah, this pandemic does work well for the antisocial, because you can interact with people, but not be within 10 states of them.
Sure. However, even the most antisocial, and I am not antisocial, so forgive me if anyone out there is like, you're wrong about this, because you're right, I've never stepped in your shoes and I don't know what it's like. The problem with this doesn't matter how great you do it, you never get that endorphin rush. It is like a physical energy thing of being alive with another human body that gives you this endorphin rush, or even shame, or like whatever emotion you want to feel. This doesn't give you any of that. This is all, if you can have fun in a closet, it's kind of like that.
Yeah, I mean, the greatest feeling in the world is coming off stage when the audience is going, berserk. And then the other one, the positioning of the comics at the exit as the audience is leaving, and they are idolizing you on the way. Oh, you were unbelievable. You were great. You crushed the show. Of course, unless you were the MC and the last one they saw, and they go, "Oh, you were okay too."
Yeah, right, exactly. Oh, were you on the show? Oh.
Yeah.
Excuse me. What they will do to me. Oh, you were great. You were great. You're great. Excuse me. We didn't get our bill. Can we get our bill, please? Can we get our check?
Right. Yeah. And you were the headliner. But one time I was.
Yeah.
One time I went to meet another comic after a show, and the audience was letting out, and we were just going to go and do some writing or whatever late at night. And an audience member actually said to me, I was not in the show, and an audience member, a drunk audience member on the way out, said to me, "You were my favorite." I was like, yeah, I really killed it tonight, didn't I? I hadn't performed.
There are times when I've tried to correct people, and then there's times where you just go, why am I going to ruin this? Like, So, because I have had someone be like, oh, that bit you had about giraffes had us on the floor. I'm like, sure.
Yeah.
Sure I did.
Best giraffe joke I ever wrote. Well, so I wanted to ask you, Ophira, about the thing that's going on Hulu, because we were talking about how your friends can help you get jobs, and you are on a show on Hulu, and it's called Up Early Tonight. Were you friends with the other women on the show, or did you meet them from working on the show?
So, this happened, all recorded recently, a couple months ago. So, and because of the times that we're doing it in and the closed set, this was, I got a call out of nowhere from a casting director in Los Angeles who was somewhat familiar with my work, but also she had taken recommendations from some other people who knew me. So that's basically, again, how I got into that door. And I just knew it was going to be hosted by Abby Crutchfield because she told me that, and I know Abby Crutchfield from New York comedy scene. Also, she lives in my neighborhood. I point out my window because it's somewhere right over there. So that was nice, but I didn't know who else was going to be part of it until we got to the set. And then, not always do you get an opportunity to do stuff that is super New York based, right? Because so much is in LA. And so this was like a complete New York based, all the talent. Every last bit of talent was in New York because no one's flying, no one's coming in from anywhere else. So, of course, I knew everybody. Everybody because you just put enough time in this place and you're going to know everybody.
Yeah, and especially, tell everyone a little bit before I ask you this question. Yeah. What is the show about, and what's it like? Tell us about it.
Yeah, so the show Up Early Tonight, it is it is presented by Scary Mommy, which is a very fun, irreverent blog and site and with a lot of great stories and pieces on it, all sort of dedicated to a more irreverent take on motherhood, something like much more hip than what you might think about Scary Mommy. I mean, the name says it all. So Scary Mommy and Huggies came together they're co-presenting this show, which is like a late night talk show. It's a late night talk show for moms, but it's funny enough to be enjoyed by everyone, but that is the focus. And so hosted by Abby Crutchfield, and then there's many segments to it. There's a panel, which is like a bunch of comics like myself talking through topics and making fun and joking about this ridiculous journey that we all found ourselves in. They have some stand-ups that do a 5-minute set like you would see on a late night show, and then they have some like nicely produced sketches. And it's all put together to be this really fun kind of, I feel really original take on motherhood, because I feel like, I've been pushing against it too. So many of us have, about this idea that if you're going to talk about being a mother, you have, it's sort of like wine in the sippy cup, like that's as cool as you can get. But
Right.
that everybody talks about it very differently. And there's much more of a feeling of like, you could talk about it in a way that maybe in the past too, people would be like, oh, as a mother, you cannot talk that way about your children, and now we know no one's joking. It is cathartic. And also, it is not, no one has the same experience. There's some universals, but it all is so specific. And like all good humans, I'm not saying anything different to you right now, the lengths us humans will go through to just try to problem solve our lives when things are hard is extraordinary. We are very creative, for better or worse.
Absolutely.
So it's a lot about
Yes,
that.
yeah, and that's
Yeah.
cool. So it's really a fresh look at kind of the problems of parenting, what it's like to be a mom. And, for many years, comedians that I knew who had children, I mean, female comedians who had
Yeah,
children, they would kind of avoid the topic
totally.
because they couldn't help but notice that the men who had children at home many times didn't talk about parenting. So they didn't want it to be like kind of in the female comedian, like,
Exactly.
do not
Genre.
enter
Yeah.
genre, right? But since it's a fresh take, I think that may have like gotten all of you excited about doing it, because you say, you know what, I'll do a show about being a mother, but only if it's done in a cool way and not with the
Exactly.
usual kind of themes.
That's right. And it's funny you say that about the female comics and the male comics, because I talk about this all the time. I never wanted to be a parent. I spent a lot of my act in the formative years talking all about that, all those jokes. And then, I changed my mind quite late in the grand scheme of things. And here I am. But, it wasn't until I had a child did I find out that so many of the male headliners and comics that I knew also had kids. And I had no idea. I had no idea from their act. I had no idea from their schedule.
Yeah.
Like, that's really what tips you off.
Well,
Like,
I know
so
a
what's
certain comedian that just a few years ago told me, I'm never having any kids. I'm never having a cat. I'm never getting married. And right now, he's married with a kid and a cat and doing a podcast with you and I, Ophira.
I know you and I are the same that way. Just like really double down on convincing ourselves and everybody out there. But you know what? I'm going to coin one of my favorite things. This is a quote from my friend Andy Christie, that from his mother and father. His father's always said, "Well, you know what? The problem is that some people don't change." And his mother said, "You know what the problem is that people change."
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it's like you're totally against getting married and having a child, or living that lifestyle, because it seems like
Oh,
it's
it's tough.
so
It's tough.
against everything that makes comedy work. You have to be out all night. You have to be on the road all the time. It's just, there is nothing less conducive to being a comedian than having a family. It's like the worst
Well,
setup, but that's how you feel until you don't feel that way anymore. And then you figure out a way, right?
I think that a lot of Clayton's attitude towards not wanting to be a father and all those other stuff at one time was just watching me on the road with him places and seeing what I had to deal with as a father,
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is that no one makes it look easy. So you go, I don't even have any like real data to show me that this is possible. So it's it all seems very, and not like you say, like there's just the pure logistics of like, how do you work this life with having a kid? It does not mesh. But then there's just the persona, like the persona of the stand-up comedian isn't even, not even in a relationship. It's sort of like independent, leather jacket, late all night, can do, there is no time, there's no other commitments, like this is it, this is number one. And so
Yeah, we're supposed to be rebels, right? And now we're
Yeah,
changing diapers.
I know, nothing more
Yeah,
rebellious
you
than that.
very rarely hear about mommies being cool,
Yeah.
or hip.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, but they are. Some of them are. And if you want to see cool mommies, I think you should get on Hulu. But the great thing about a streaming service is that we don't have to schedule it. I don't have to say, oh, well, this show is on at Tuesday at 7 or whatever. Now it might premiere at a certain time on a certain day, but because it's on the streaming service, you can watch it whenever
It's so
you
funny
want.
you say that, because when it premiered, I actually said to them, well, at what time? And they were like, that doesn't...
We're just going to drop it. Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I was like, oh, right. But I will say, during this time, there has been a return to appointment television. So
That's true.
It is possible something has a time.
That's true. And it's kind of nice having something to look forward to. Like, really, the only show that really had that kind of, I don't know, that panache, if you will, is Game of Thrones. The people that were into it, and I never got into it, oddly enough, but the people that were into it were like, oh, every Sunday I'm not going to do anything except for watch Game of Thrones as soon as it premieres on HBO. And so there is something kind of cool about, I can't wait to watch it. Other than that, we just have things that are on live, like sports or SNL, like if you really want to watch it when it's happening.
Right.
That's it. But otherwise, your average sitcom or whatever, you can watch it whenever. So, with that in mind, when you're doing this talk show, I assume that you kind of stay away from current events, right? Because,
topical. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was much more based on like the kind of stuff that we were talking about. It was more based on like the experiences that we're having, and what our daily lives look like, as opposed to something like tied to like, how do you feel in this political climate, or whatever.
How many times Trump lost Georgia already, or whatever.
How many times can Biden win? I think we're at 76 times.
Yeah, I'm just glad all that's over, because it's just nice to move on now in this new year and everything being clean slate, and hopefully this year will hold some I guess warmer memories than what most of us have from 2020. But
they talk about rock bottom.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but looking back on that, I do see a silver lining in some ways. A lot of us got to spend more time at home. Like I was saying before, comedians, we usually travel all the time. I usually spend 6 months of the year approximately on the road. Yeah. Doing comedy or playing poker or whatever else I do. And so, 2020 was not so much. It was like we got to kind of reconnect with what is important. So if there is a silver lining, that's mine. Do either of you kind of look back on the year that was with any kind of fondness at all?
No.
Yeah, I mean, they shut your business down, Al, right? You had to, you basically left the dead city, New York, and relocated to Florida. So yeah, there's nothing good about it, right?
I will. So interesting, if I may ask, because, so let's just say, I don't know, tomorrow, everything is, I don't know, back. We're back. You can do whatever you want. You can open any business. You can have people in a door. You can travel as much as you want. Would you replicate what was what you left?
Yeah, I would replicate it and let my kids run it and stay where I am. I'm having a pretty good time, not having to worry about the health department, the building department, comedians wanting to switch their time spots, the next door neighbor taking pictures of the line outside, any customer Yelp reviews, employees not getting along, producers not getting along, fighting over time spots. I'm kind of ready. Whenever the kids give me the okay, Dad, I want to run it, I'll be glad to step to the side, help them from behind the scenes, and enjoy life a little bit,
Yeah.
It's funny, Al, you just said a minute ago that there was no silver lining, but I think you just named like 12 of them.
Yeah, no, it was my old comedic timing, just trying to answer fast.
Yeah.
Get a laugh.
You do seem less stressed out than you used to. I mean, when you were in New York, kind of, actively taking a hand and running your club day to day, it seems like maybe just being able to let go of some of that stress has been good for you.
It's been incredible from that perspective. Yeah. I mean, I've really gotten a chance to see what semi-retirement or retirement would be like. And for me, I guess if you're a person that has not been in a very stressful job your entire life anyway, and you retire, then you get a little bored, But for me, I've been in the battle for 30 some odd years just on this profession. I'm ready to chill out and take it easy.
Yeah, well, good for you.
Yeah.
You've earned it, right? You've earned it. You're not making any money, but that's okay.
Yeah, well, that's something. Oh, money! I forgot about that part. Yeah,
That's very 2020 money. Actually, it's 2019. 2019 was the back when money.
Back when we used to make money. Yeah,
I'm buying Groupons. I'm on the entertainment book. I'm clipping coupons. I don't care.
Like an old retired guy in Florida, huh?
That's perfect.
Yeah. Why not?
It's not a bad life.
I love live performance. I can't wait to get back to it. But I do not miss all the travel. Like I like going new places, let's say.
But getting there.
Getting there, I like flying. Like I actually like the flying part. But all the rest of it around it and the endless, and just the person I became, like I was obsessed with my Delta Sky Miles app. Like I was always checking that. That became real important to me.
Totally, yeah.
I found an incredible way to get around all of that. And it comes from I have really bad degenerative arthritis in my back and in my knees. So one day, I got to the airport and had to check in. I was on this long line, and this guy with the wheelchair passes me by, and he goes, "You need to go somewhere," And I wasn't going to ask him or anything, but I said, "Where you going?" He goes, "Wherever you want." So I said, "Well, I got to check in here, and it's a long line." He goes, "Oh, don't worry." I get in the wheelchair. He wheels me right to the front of the line, past everybody, gets my ticket. Then he goes, "Where are you going?" I told him the gate. He takes me right to the front of the security line to check in. They take my ID. I go through the X-ray machine, and then he wheels me all the way to the gate.
Amazing.
Then I'm the first one to enter the plane. So, hey,
you were like,
that makes traveling a lot easier.
All right, so we've got two golden rules today. Ophira's golden rule: be nice to everyone, and Al's golden rule: impersonate a handicapped person wherever possible.
Demand a wheelchair, and when you can.
You see, here, I'll just say, I'm not impersonating because I probably truly do. I have a handicap placard. I do have bad knees and legs, but yeah, go ahead if you can get away with it.
Take advantage of the situation.
The funny thing I found out, they can't ask you. They can't illegally ask you. If you say, "I'm handicapped," they cannot question your handicap.
That's
okay.
Right.
You got the wheelchair. Right. That's all the proof they need, right? That's it.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. I think we should give Ophira some more rules. I'm on board with this idea, Al. We should have Ophira's golden rules. I don't know if it's going to be a website or a podcast or a book that she comes out with, but Ophira deserves to kind of have that sort of authority because I can tell you one of the very first gigs I ever got that paid money was an MC spot that our mutual friend that all of us know, Roger, called me up when I was a brand new comic and said, "Do you want to MC a comedy show? It's I think it was at a tennis club or a country club of some kind."
Yeah.
And you were the headliner for that show. And I gave you a ride. So I'm sure you don't even remember. It was so long ago.
Yeah. No, I remember that we met because you were driving.
Yeah.
Because that was the first time I met you.
Yeah. And we, you were so nice to me. You gave me advice. I really didn't know what I was doing at all. The show went pretty well. Country club people.
Did it go well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Country club people, they're not too hard to please. I mean, they got a good life. They're in the country club. But I miss those days. But yeah, I just remember one thing that, you live by these words of wisdom, be nice to people. Here I was, a no-name, brand new comic on the scene. And, you treated me as an equal. And maybe because I had your life in my hands as I'm sitting behind the wheel.
That is true. Not dumb.
But no,
a lot of things, but I'm not dumb.
You've always been this way. And this was many, many years ago. You were super nice to everyone. You really made a strong impression on me and said, well, when I get to her level, if I ever get to be a headliner myself, I'm not going to act like I own the place when I walk in. You were very humble and just, so kind to everyone. So that was my first impression of you. And here we are all these years later, and I have never changed my mind.
Oh, thanks. It makes me think too that I was like, wow, I guess I never walked in and thought I would own the place because I've never had that level of self-esteem. Maybe I need to work on that. Maybe
So
this is a problem, actually.
Golden rule number 3, never have too much self-esteem.
Yeah, it ruins everything. Actually, I do think, we always joke about how there's a certain generation, millennials, we usually say, but what have you, that have been raised with, a lot more positive reinforcement, and they get trophies, whether they come in first or last place kind of thing. And I'm always jealous of that kind of confidence and self-esteem.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if there's going to be a future where people have to take some sort of, classes to lower that.
Yeah. People who grow up that way, they don't end up being comedians because we all have that damage in our.
I think so. Yeah, the hole. Trying to fill that.
Yeah. Al, what do you think? Millennials? Al, you don't have any strong opinions about millennials, do you?
I hate millennials. I hate the whole damn generation. They're useless.
A useless generation.
A useless generation. I've had millennials come over to me and go, I'd like to cut my hours. And then I say to them, well, how are you going to pay your bills? And they go, well, I figured it out with a chart. If you raise my pay by $5 an hour, I could work less out. I said, how is that working for me?
Well, you don't factor in. You don't factor in.
The way their brain works is beyond me, man. It's unbelievable. But when I'm hard on them, I try to think, did my parents think this way about me and my generation? And I realized my mom didn't think of me at all. So,
that's true. That's true.
This is what you're gonna do, and I don't give a crap what your rights are and what you think.
Yeah.
Now, shut up.
I asked my mom. At one point, especially when I had a baby, I was like, Mom, what was my first word? Now I'm the youngest of 6 as well. And she was like, I don't know.
I don't know. Why would I remember something like that? That's not important.
She was like, it was probably Mama or Dada.
Whatever. You make up your own backstory.
Yeah, my parents never saw me do stand-up comedy. I remember showing my mother one of my first houses that I bought. When you got to show them everything in the house, you got to take them for the tour.
Yes, the tour.
The famous tour. And I go to my mom, I want to show you my office in the basement. It's got a lot of fun stuff in there. Yeah, I'm sure it's a basement. It's very nice. Yeah. I'm sure you put paneling and a nice chair. Thank you.
Yeah, well done.
I'm hungry.
Yeah, great. Well, that's a word to the wise out there. If you're listening to this and you enjoy comedy, maybe you have a child and you think I would be mortified if my child said to me one day, I'd like to try to be a stand-up comedian. As most parents would be mortified by that. If that's how you feel, just make sure that you raise your child to have plenty of self-esteem and self-love so that they don't have that hole in their heart, so they won't end up seeking it from total strangers every night at Broadway Comedy Club. And that's my best advice I can give.
That is solid. That is solid.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. Well, Ophira, we're out of time, but before we go, I wanted to give you a chance. If there's anything we didn't get to, let people know where they can find you. How do you like for fans to interact?
Oh yeah, I mean, if you'd like to interact, I'm on the social medias. Actually, the only social media you need to interact with me on is Venmo. I'm at Ophira on Venmo. And all the rest of them, I'm at Ophira E. See, if you can't find me, just go straight to Venmo. I'll notice you.
Yeah.
And
Ophira.
then there's new episodes of Ask Me Another every week, and you can find that wherever you get podcasts, or if you just want to go to the NPR website, you can search Ask Me Another. You'll get our page, but also iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, whatever you like. And check out on Hulu Up Early Tonight, new show. Hopefully everyone loves it, and they order 70 million more episodes and more comedians get work.
Yeah, keep us all busy. So
That's right.
up early tonight is the Hulu show. Ask Me Another is the NPR show, which is also released in podcast form. And Al Martin, you have your book, Did It on a Dare, which is doing great. You can pick that up on Amazon. It's all about Al's incredible stories of 30 years as a comedy club owner here in New York City. Al, any parting words before we say goodbye?
No, this has been a great episode. I so enjoyed hearing a couple of Ophira's golden rules because they are well worth it. Book your own room so you learn how to interact on the other side of the aisle. Be nice to everybody because you never know who's going to hit.
And get a wheelchair.
And
when
get
you're
a
at the
wheelchair.
airport.
That's right.
Yeah,
You want a
listen,
good
to
seat.
make your airport experience more comfortable, get a wheelchair.
Well, I can't think of a better place to leave it. So for Ophira Eisenberg, our special guest this week, and for our producer, Jay Frank, and of course, for the irreplaceable Al Martin, I'm Clayton Fletcher. Thank you all so much for listening.
Hi, Al Martin here, owner of the Broadway Comedy Club and Greenwich Village Comedy Club in New York City. And I just authored a great book on stand-up comedy and my 30-year journey called Did It on a Dare, How I Built a Comedy Empire in 30 Short Years. So if you want an interesting story on the comedy scene in the 90s and early 2000s up until the present, if you're an aspiring comic and want to learn about some of my golden rules of comedy from a comedy club owner, this is the book for you. It's available on Amazon, and just go to Amazon, click Al Martin, and it'll take you right to my page. It's available on audio and Kindle, as well as paperback. Thank you.